Well, hello, students, and welcome to another lesson here on Jay's Learning School. I have the opportunity to help you to understand and speak better English. On today's lesson, I am going to teach you about camping, and more specifically, we're going to deal with common vocabulary words that have to do with camping. So let's get ready to get into today's lesson. As always, you know, I am excited. Make sure that you stick around for the entire lesson today because at the end, as well as the beginning and in between, I have various quiz questions that I'm going to ask you. So let's pay attention and make sure that you can answer those questions correctly. All right, let's get into it. So, when we talk about camping, it has to do with exploring the outdoors, whether you are in the summertime or the wintertime, and you do this for a specific period of time. So, it may be the summertime and you decide to go camping for 3 days, or you may decide to go overnight. I have neighbors that enjoy camping and they camp out in their backyard. And then occasionally they will go camping for a few days. Okay. Now, recently, the Daytona 500 took place, which is a race down in Daytona, Florida, that is broadcast throughout the world. And it's one of the biggest NASCAR events that they have. And you have hundreds of thousands of people that go camping down in that area. And then they go to the race on that Sunday. So, camping is something that is quite accepted, and people get involved with it here, at least in this country. I used to do a lot of camping when I was younger, but not so much now. So let's get into some of the common vocabulary words that have to do with camping. So you have a camping travel trailer or just a camping trailer. Now, you can get one vehicle that is considered a camper. Okay. I don't have a picture of it in this slide, but this type trailer or camper is pulled on or by a truck. Okay. Usually has two wheels. If it's a large camper, it may have four wheels, and sometimes it has six wheels. But it has a restroom or a bathroom on there. In there, it has a bed, an area for cooking, uh, sometimes just a microwave. And depending on the camper, it may have bunk beds, it may have a satellite television. I was really surprised at how detailed these campers are and how expensive they are. But there are a number of people that purchase them because they go camping often throughout the year. A tent. Now, I'm familiar with the tent. I used to be in Boy Scouts when I was younger. And when we went camping, we would just use a tent. I didn't have a camper trailer, but a tent is usually made out of nylon and it has poles, and you would erect it in the woods or in a pasture or by a lake. And this is where you camped out or you slept. They were usually waterproof. Sometimes water would leak in if it would were to rain, but you're sleeping basically, as we say, under the stars. Okay, so a tent sometimes may have a window or it may not have a window. Bugs can get in sometimes, but that's all a part of camping outdoors in a tent. A cabin. Now, I'm more familiar with a cabin. Uh, if I were to go camping nowadays, I don't think my wife would go with me, but if I could talk her into going, she would stay in a cabin. Actually, when we went to the mountains in Tennessee, we have stayed or lodged in a cabin. And lodging is another term where you would just say you're staying overnight or multiple nights. And so a cabin is basically a house. Oftentimes, it may be made out of different types of wood, pine wood, and such. Usually has an open floor plan. and there's maybe not a television because it's all about being in nature or outdoors. So some cabins have fireplaces, some do not. I have been in cabins that had maybe 20 beds because it was a cabin for young people, and we would go camping or what is called summer camp, okay, in the cabin. A state park. Now, state parks are located in this country throughout the country, okay? Because there are so many places that you can go camping. A state park is usually defined as property that is owned by the state government that is reserved because of its history or its natural beauty. Okay, so that would be considered a state park. Yellowstone State Park have the what is it called out in the West? We have the Grand Canyon. They consider that to be a state park. And so actually the Grand Canyon is something that my wife and I visited a few years ago. And when we were out there, we were at Las Vegas. And the trip from Las Vegas to the Grand Canyon, I believe it's like an 8 hour trip, and you stop at the Hoover Dam and one more spot. But we decided to do something different. Saved up my money, and she used all my little vacation money. But we took a helicopter ride from Las Vegas, actually the surrounding Las Vegas area, to the Grand Canyon. So again, it was an 8 hour drive, but the helicopter ride was like 30 to 45 minutes. And so we rode right over all of the terrain and landed inside of the Grand Canyon. And so it was very beautiful, something that I would never forget, but that was considered and is considered a state park. Remember, a state park is reserved land by the government that has been deemed so because of its natural beauty or its history. A sleeping bag, okay? A sleeping bag. That's your bed. Sleeping bag is your bed. And when I was young, I used to have a Dukes of Hazzard sleeping bag. Dukes of Hazzard was a popular television show back in the late 70s and 80s. Bo and Luke Duke. And so that was my themed sleeping bag. I think I also had one that was Transformers, the movies that's out now. It was a very popular toy when I was younger. And I had two sleeping bags. And sometimes we would use our sleeping bags when we would go spend the night at a friend's house. Instead of sleeping in the bed, we would just take a sleeping bag and sleep on the floor. And sleeping bags are used to sleep on the ground. On the ground. Maybe I'll tell you a story with my kids and their sleeping bag and their camping experience later on in today's lesson. Okay. A sleeping bag. A fishing license. Now, when you go camping, more than likely in this country, you will need a fishing license unless you are on private property. But a fishing license basically is a fee that you pay, and it goes to the state, and it gives you permission to fish in a particular area for a particular amount of time. And if you don't have a fishing license, even though you may be camping for a night or 2 nights, you can get fined. So it is important to have a fishing license, and you would keep it in your wallet or in your pocket or on your person. So if you are approached by a government official, you can prove that you have a permit to fish in that particular area, a fishing license. Most people that go camping, they know how to obtain a fishing license, and usually nowadays you can obtain them online. Now, the park ranger is the one who will check you for your fishing license. A park ranger is basically an official in a state park that is making sure that laws are being maintained, that nothing illegal is happening in that particular park or that reservation. Park rangers, uh, they survey a lot of square miles oftentimes But again, a park ranger is there to help to protect that particular area in that state park. So park rangers are basically like the nature police, in my opinion. Not to offend anyone who is a uh, park ranger, but they actually make sure animals are not being hunted illegally. They make sure that property is not being damaged, burned, as well as other type laws that they are looking for and making sure they're not broken by visitors to a particular park. All right, here's our first pop quiz question for today's lesson. What is an area of land that is owned and protected by a U.S. state because of its natural beauty or its importance in history called? What is that land called that is owned by a state government because of its natural beauty or its importance in history? Now, I talked about this earlier in the lesson. Real simple. Let's see if you can get that answer correct. Make sure you leave the answer down in the comments section. Let's go to our next section. A canoe is a small boat that is shaped like a banana. And if you don't know how to balance, it is easy to tip the canoe over. And the canoe, you have an oar, and it helps you to paddle. And so you may go to the left and then go to the right. And then when you want to turn, you just use one particular side. You want to turn the other way, you use the oar to paddle that particular way. And then when you want to be still, you can drop an anchor. But canoes are pretty nice. Most people don't use canoes anymore. You see a kayak. I have a neighbor down the street, and she goes to the local reservoir, and she loves her kayak. She has 2 or 3 dogs, and they actually get on the kayak with her. So it was something amazing to see. But she stays out on the lake all day in the summertime. That's her way to relax. She doesn't camp out, but she goes to the lake to relax. A canoe. River rafting. Wow. So when you're river rafting, you're actually on an inflatable boat, and you're on the river going usually downstream, and it's pretty fun, but it can be dangerous. I have gone river rafting one time, and I really enjoyed it. It can become quite dangerous if there's rocks in the path because you have to go over the rocks, and the raft will jump out of the water, and the water is cold and it gets in the water, and but it's beautiful, it's fun. And the thing about river rafting is at the end of the ride you have to jump out of the raft and walk to the shore, and the current from the river is usually quite strong. And so if you're not a great swimmer, or if you lose your balance, the current from the river can actually drive you downstream. And so that was a little frightening for me when I was a teenager. I jumped out and got caught a little bit by the current of the river. But thankfully, I made it to the shore because here I am. So, river rafting is very, very fun. Some people do it as a recreation sport, or it's usually something that people do when they go on vacation and they may take a river rafting tour. Okay. A poncho. Okay. It's basically a pullover piece of plastic that you would wear when it's raining. A poncho. A poncho usually has a hood. They're usually colors of like yellow or blue. I know you see here in this picture, there are some that are clear or white, but oftentimes they're yellow or blue. So if you are lost, you can be easily spotted. But a poncho is just primarily used to keep you from getting wet in the rain. Okay. You will not be warm with a poncho. It is very thin. Actually, you can fold a poncho up and it can fit in your bag or in a coat pocket. You actually see people using ponchos when they have baseball games and the game has a rain delay. You'll see people sitting in the stand wearing ponchos. Okay. Wildlife. Wildlife is something that you will pretty much see when you go camping. Now, depending on where you camp, will determine the type of wildlife that you see. There's a television show that comes on here in the States called Yellowstone. And during this show, it is actually filmed out west, and they show some of the scenery is so beautiful and some of the wildlife. But the wildlife they have out west in the United States is different from the wildlife that we have here down south. Here down south, we'll have turtles, we'll have black bears, we'll have snakes, such as water moccasins. Here is a fox, we have foxes. So these are some of the type wildlife, and of course, deer. Deer are very popular in this particular area. Now, deer down south, they're kind of scary. They stay away from humans. But deer up north and out west, they are more familiar with human contact, and you can feed the deer there straight from your hand, right from your hand. You can put deer food and grain in your hand, and the deer will walk up and eat out of your hand. Now, down here in the South, they won't do that. I remember one time when I was in Colorado as a child, uh, for the first time, I was so amazed how the deer walked right up to my hand and ate the corn right out of my hand. That was part of the wildlife. Those are the animals that make up the wildlife in that area. Okay. Private property. Now, if you go camping, more than likely you will see a private property sign that says no trespassing. So, a private property sign lets you know that it is not public property. And once you see that sign, it would be illegal for you to go onto someone's property without their permission. And so private property lets you know that, hey, this is not for the public. This is owned by a individual or a company, and they don't want anyone on property. Some people actually have signs that say all trespassers will be shot. Don't want to be shot for going on private property, okay? Hiking. When people go camping, in order to see the nature, the wildlife, or to get exercise, many people go hiking. They'll have trails for hiking, which are paths through the wooded area or through the park that you can hike. You sometimes can ride a bike, you can walk, you can jog. I enjoy hiking. I don't do it often, but I have done it. I love it because of one of the exercise, but two, I like seeing nature and seeing the scenery. Now, I'm not one of these ones that will go on a 10 or 12-mile hike, but if it's under 5 miles, I think I can handle that. Hiking. I have actually hiked up Stone Mountain here in Georgia. So the world famous Stone Mountain, they have hiking trails that will take you from the bottom of the mountain all the way to the top. And so I have done that one time, and I really enjoyed hiking or climbing that particular mountain. Bow and arrow. Now, most people that go camping, they have activities that they do. And shooting a bow and arrow is a popular activity that many children and adults do. Some do it for competition, some do it for exercise, but shooting bow and arrows is pretty fun. So you point the arrow at a target, you pull back the bow, and you release. And the objective is to get as close to the middle of the target as you can. So if you have not shot a bow and arrow before, at least try to do so because it is a great experience. I can't remember the name of this game now. I think it's corn something where they toss like bean bags into a hole. And so a lot of people do that. That's pretty fun. Matter of fact, that's a competition now, and people get paid to play that game. Maybe you can let me know down in the comments, what is that game called where they toss the bean bags into the little hole maybe 10 feet away? It's pretty fun. SOS. Now, an SOS signal is something that you would do with your flashlight in order to communicate to someone that it is an emergency. Okay, you may need to make an SOS call on your cell phone or an emergency phone call. Flashlights have an SOS beacon on them, and if you press them, it will do Morse code spelling out SOS, letting people know that it is an emergency. So that is something that you need to know how to do if you're camping in case there is an emergency. Okay, here's our next pop quiz question. What is property owned by an individual called? When you go camping, I talked about a sign that you will see. What is that property called, or what is property owned by an individual called? Okay, can you remember? Let's put your answer down in the comments section and see if you can get that right. Okay, let's look at some more common English vocabulary words that have to do with camping. A bonfire. A bonfire. Now, bonfire is a huge fire that you make at the campground. Now, there are two types of fires. You have a bonfire and a campfire. Now, a campfire is usually small, and the bonfire is usually big. And usually at the bonfire, you would have a group of people, or the campers would come around the bonfire, tell stories, hang out. Sometimes they would cook certain things, but a bonfire gets so hot, it's really not made for cooking. That's more so for a campfire. But the bonfire is made to, if it's in the winter, to keep everyone warm. Now, if a bonfire happens or you make one during a summer camp or a summertime when you're camping, it's actually where people come to hang out. And I'm telling you, it gets hot. A few years ago, we made a bonfire for a youth group, and it was so hot. It was wintertime. I had to come out of my coat, my sweater. I was sweating. It was just that hot around the bonfire. And so remember, a bonfire is a large fire, usually made with pallets and pieces of wood, but a campfire is pretty small. You can make it with kindling or small pieces of wood, limbs, and maybe a log or two. Okay? S'mores. Now, s'mores are a very popular dessert that is made when people go camping. And it consists of graham crackers, chocolate, and marshmallows. And so you would put the graham crackers like a sandwich, like bread from a sandwich, and in between would be the marshmallows and chocolate. And you would eat it. And so what people do is they put the marshmallow and the chocolate on a stick or a skewer, place it over the campfire or a bonfire, and let it melt. Then take the two graham crackers like a sandwich, place them in between, press it and pull it, and then you eat it. It's very sweet, but it's really good. So a s'more. And it's very inexpensive to make. You only need those three ingredients: a candy bar, marshmallows, and graham crackers. And it's enjoyed by everyone, at least that I have come in contact with. Mosquito spray. Okay, so mosquito spray is what you need when you go camping to keep mosquitoes off of you from biting you around your neck, on your skin, on your legs. And so you would spray mosquito spray on you. Now, if you're like me, you may not prefer to use mosquito spray, or we have a brand that's pretty popular here in this country called Off. But you can actually put things on you like lavender oil, peppermint oil, tea tree oil. You can drop all of these essential oils on a cotton ball and place it on your skin, and that will keep the mosquitoes away. So lavender, tea tree oil, lemon oil, um, these type essential oils do the same thing that mosquito spray does, but they're all natural. Okay, mosquito spray may have a little bit of chemicals in it, but it's not harmful to human skin. Okay, ticks. Ticks are usually uh little small insects, I guess you could call them, that are in the woods. And when you go camping, you have to watch out for them because they can jump on your skin, lock in, and just suck blood, and they just become real big and fat. But the thing about ticks are you have to be careful about how you remove them because they can become stuck in your skin and cause disease. Ticks get on dogs, they get on pets, cats, and such, but they also get on humans. Okay, so they can get inside of a tent, they can get in your shoe. And so you have to be careful and watch out for ticks because ticks, they will bite you and suck blood out of you. Yeah. Poison ivy. Now, when you go camping, you have to be careful about poison ivy because if you brush up against poison ivy on your skin, on your face, you will get a rash. You will break out. You will start itching, and you will have to put what is it called? Calamine lotion. This pink lotion you put on you, so you can stop the rash from spreading on your skin or agitating your skin. There's actually another one called, I believe, poison oak. And so you just have to be careful because usually people brush up on it when they're camping and have no idea what it looks like. And before you know it, they're scratching and itching, and it can be on your neck and you can scratch over here, but then start scratching your arm, and then you've passed it from here to your arm. So it's amazing. It's contagious, and so you just want to be careful with poison ivy. And sure enough, don't scratch your eye or your mouth. The constellations. Now, when you go camping, one of the most beautiful things that you can experience is at night. Is just to look up into the sky, into the heavens, and see the stars, and or what's called the constellations. Okay, I love trying to identify the North Star, the Big Dipper, the Small Dipper, Orion's Belt. All of these different star patterns or constellations you can see when you go camping or when it's a clear sky at night. Okay, so it is a beautiful thing just to look up and see creation. And I enjoy looking at the constellations. And sometimes it's amazing what you may think is a star is actually an airplane because it'll have lights on the airplane blinking and going across the sky. But it's so beautiful to look up and to see. And finally, the last English vocabulary word that has to do with camping is a hammock. Okay, so a hammock is basically, I can't even call it a chair, but it's you relax in it, you sit in it, you can lay in it, and you tie it between two posts or two trees or a truck in a tree. And it's you have to have good balance because you can get in a hammock and fall out. But once you get in a hammock, it is very, very comfortable and very relaxing because you can swing from side to side and sleep at the same time. You can lay in a hammock and read a book. You can lay in a hammock and look up at the stars, lay in a hammock and fall asleep, drink a fruit drink. So hammocks are a part of camping or the camping experience. And I believe it's something that everyone should try at least one time. So these are all of the common English words that have to do with camping. Let's look at our last pop quiz question for today. True or false? This is different. A campfire is larger than a bonfire. True or false? A campfire is larger than a bonfire. Let's put your answer down in the comments section and let's see who can get all of them correct. Well, it's time for a subscriber shout out, something I do here on the channel. I really appreciate all of the subscribers that subscribe to the channel. And if you're not a subscriber, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. But I would like to thank some of my newest subscribers here on the channel. Here they are right here. Thank you so much for subscribing to Jay's Learning School. I hope you are active in the comments section. Hope to hear from you on one of my future lessons. Well, let's look at a recent comment. And this is from one of my frequent commenters here on the channel. Frequent subscribers, shall I say, they comment frequently. Super M says, thanks for the recommendation. I'm going to watch these movies to improve my English. So this is from the video where I talked about movies that you can watch to improve your English. So they were appreciative of that. And I replied with a thumbs up and said, that's great. They all have life lessons and I enjoyed watching them over the years. I hope you enjoy them. So thank you so much for the comment. I love reading comments here on the channel, so make sure you participate. Leave me a comment. Well, that's going to do it for today's lesson. I hope you have learned common English vocabulary words that pertain to camping. Be sure to join me right now. I'm streaming every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning at 9:15 a.m. And of course, if you missed this stream, you can go back and watch it on the channel. Hey guys, thanks so much for taking time to watch today's lesson. I hope you join me on my next lesson. Have a great day.